Hi, this is Eve with True Crime and Coke. You are about to listen to an EDUsode. These are shorter episodes dedicated to educational information ranging from forensic terminology to interesting FBI files. Or you can check out one of my regular episodes. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube under True Crime and Coke. So, let's get started. Hi, this is Eve. Welcome to EDUsode 17, and we are on a new subject, and it is from, of course, the FBI.gov website, and I found something from July 2008, so it's outdated, but I'm sure it's still interesting, and most of it probably still applies. It is kind of like the other one. It is Serial Murder, Multidisciplinary Perspectives for Investigators. Let me read the foreword to you. So it tells you where they got the information and all that. The topic of serial murder occupies a unique niche within the criminal justice community. In addition to the significant investigative challenges they bring to law enforcement, serial murder cases attract an overabundance of attention from the media, mental health experts, academia, and the general public. While there has been significant independent work conducted by a variety of experts to identify and analyze the many issues related to serial murder, there have been few efforts to reach a consensus between law enforcement and other experts regarding these matters. In an effort to bridge the gap between the many views of issues related to serial murder, the FBI hosted a multidisciplinary symposium in San Antonio, Texas on August 29th, 2005 through September 2nd, 2005. The goal of the symposium was to bring together a group of respected experts on serial murder from a variety of fields and specialties to identify the commonalities of knowledge regarding serial murder. A total of 135 subject matter experts attended the 5-day event. These individuals included law enforcement officials who have successfully investigated and apprehended serial killers, mental health, academic, and other experts who have studied serial killers and shared their expertise through education and publication, officers of the court who have judged, prosecuted, and defended serial killers, and members of the media who inform and educate the public when serial killers strike. The attendees also reflected the international nature of the serial murder problem, as there were attendees from 10 different countries on 5 continents. The agenda encompassed a variety of topics related to serial murder, including common myths, definitions, typologies, pathology and casualty, forensics, the role of the media, prosecution issues, investigative task force organization, and major case management issues. Each day included panel discussions, case presentations, and discussion groups addressing a range of topics related to serial murder. This monograph is a culmination of the input and discussion of the attendees on the major issues related to serial murder. Contents are based upon the notes taken during the presentations, panel discussions, and breakout group sessions. The goal in publishing this monograph is to outline the consensus views from a variety of disciplines on the causality, motivations, and characteristics of serial murderers, which will enable the criminal justice community to generate a more effective response in the identification, investigation, and adjudication of these cases. The National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime, NCAVC, is a component of the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group, CIRG, located at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The primary mission of the NCAVC is to provide behaviorally based operational support to federal, state, local, and international law enforcement agencies involved in the investigation of unusual or repetitive violent crimes, communicated threats, terrorism, and other matters of interest to law enforcement. The NCAVC is comprised of 4 units. Behavioral Analysis Unit 1, which is counterterrorism and threat assessment. Behavioral Analysis Unit 2 is crimes against adults. The Behavioral Analysis Unit 3 is for crimes against children and is also the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, or VICAP. NCAVC staff members conduct detailed analyses of crime from behavioral, forensic, and investigative perspectives. The goal of this analysis process is to provide law enforcement agencies with a better understanding of the motivations and behaviors of offenders. The analysis is a tool that provides investigators with descriptive and behavioral characteristics of the most probable offender and advice regarding investigative techniques to help identify the offender. The NCAVC also conducts research into violent crime from a law enforcement perspective. NCAVC research designed to gain insight into criminal thought processes, motivations, and behaviors. Research findings are refined into innovative investigative techniques that improve law enforcement's effectiveness against violent criminals and are shared with law enforcement and other disciplines through publications, presentations, and training. The Serial Murder Symposium was conceived, planned, and coordinated by the staff of the Behavioral Analysis Unit 2, BAU2. The resources of BAU2 are focused on serial mass and other murders, sexual assaults, kidnappings, and other criminal acts targeting adult victims. BAU2 staff members have developed significant expertise on the subject of serial murder and regularly provide operational assistance, conduct research, and provide training on issues related to serial murder. So this symposium had all of these people together, and what I will read to you is, I guess, what they came up with. Part 1, Introduction. Serial murder is neither a new phenomenon, nor is it uniquely American. Dating back to ancient times, serial murderers have been chronicled around the world. In 19th century Europe, Dr. Richard von Krafft-Ebing conducted some of the first documented research on violent sexual offenders and the crimes they committed. Best known for his 1886 textbook, Psychopathia Sexualis, Dr. Krafft-Ebing described numerous case studies of sexual homicide, serial murder, and other areas of sexual proclivity. Serial murder is a relatively rare event, estimated to comprise less than 1% of all murders committed in any given year. However, there is a macabre interest in the topic that far exceeds its scope and has generated countless articles, books, and movies. This broad-based public fascination began in the late 1880s after a series of unsolved prostitute murders occurred in the Whitechapel area of London. These murders were committed by an unknown individual who named himself Jack the Ripper and sent letters to the police claiming to be the killer. Here is one such letter. Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. These murders and the nom de guerre have become synonymous with serial murder. This case spawned many legends concerning serial murder and the killers who committed it. In the 1970s and 1980s, serial murder cases such as the Green River Killer, Ted Bundy, and BTK sparked a renewed public interest in serial murder, which blossomed in the 1990s after the release of films such as Silence of the Lambs. Much of the general public's knowledge concerning serial murder is a product of Hollywood productions. Storylines are created to heighten the interest of audiences rather than to accurately portray serial murder. By focusing on the atrocities inflicted on victims by deranged offenders, the public is captivated by the criminals and their crime. This only lends more confusion to the true dynamics of serial murder. Law enforcement professionals are subject to the same misinformation from a different source, the use of anecdotal information. Professionals involved in serial murder cases, such as investigators, prosecutors, and pathologists, may have limited exposure to serial murder. Their experience may be based upon a single murder series, and the factors in that case are extrapolated to other serial murders. As a result, certain stereotypes and misconceptions take root regarding the nature of serial murder and the characteristics of serial killers. A growing trend that compounds the fallacies surrounding serial murder is the talking heads phenomenon. Given credibility by the media, these self-proclaimed authorities profess to have an expertise in serial murder. They appear frequently on television and in the print media and speculate on the motive for the murders and the characteristics of the possible offender without being privy to the facts of the investigation. Unfortunately, inappropriate comments may perpetuate misperceptions concerning serial murder and impair law enforcement's investigative efforts. It was decided by a majority of the attendees to issue a formal statement of position regarding the media's use of these types of individuals. The relative rarity of serial murder, combined with inaccurate anecdotal information and fictional portrayals of serial killers, has resulted in the following common myths and misconceptions regarding serial killers. Myths and misconceptions regarding serial murder. Myth: serial killers are all dysfunctional loners. The majority of serial killers are not reclusive social misfits who live alone. They are not monsters and may not appear strange. Many serial killers hide in plain sight within their communities. Serial murderers often have families and homes, are gainfully employed, and appear to be normal members of the community. Because many serial murderers can blend in so effortlessly, they are oftentimes overlooked by law enforcement and the public. And then it gives some examples, such as Robert Yates killed 17 prostitutes in the Spokane, Washington area during the 1990s. He was married with 5 children, lived in a middle-class neighborhood, and was a decorated U.S. Army National Guard helicopter pilot. During the time period of the murders, Yates routinely patronized prostitutes, and several of his victims knew each other. Yates buried one of his victims in his yard beneath his bedroom window. Yates was eventually arrested and pled guilty to 13 of the murders. The Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, confessed to killing 48 women over a 20-year time period in the Seattle, Washington area. He had been married 3 times and was still married at the time of his arrest. He was employed as a truck painter for 32 years. He attended church regularly, read the Bible at home and at work. He also talked about religion with coworkers. Ridgway also frequently picked up prostitutes and had sex with them throughout the time period in which he was killing. The BTK killer, Dennis Rader, killed 10 victims in and around Wichita, Kansas. He sent 16 written communications to the news media over a 30-year period, taunting the police and the public. He was married with 2 children, was a Boy Scout leader, served honorably in the U.S. Air Force, was employed as a local government official, and was president of his church. And eventually, of course, I'll do episodes on all of the examples of the killers they're giving. Myth: serial killers are all white males. Contrary to popular belief, serial killers span all racial groups. There are white, African American, Hispanic, and Asian serial killers. The racial diversification of serial killers generally mirrors that of the overall U.S. population. Charles Ng, a native of Hong Kong, China, killed numerous victims in Northern California in concert with Robert Lake. Derek Todd Lee was an African American who killed at least 6 women in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Coral Eugene Watts was an African American who killed 5 victims in Michigan, fled the state to avoid detection, and murdered another 12 victims in Texas before being apprehended. Rafael Resendez Ramirez, a native of Mexico, murdered 9 people in Kentucky, Texas, and Illinois before turning himself in. Rory Conde, a Colombian native, was responsible for 6 prostitute homicides in the Miami, Florida area. Myth: serial killers are only motivated by sex. All serial murders are not sexually based. There are many other motivations for serial murders, including anger, thrill, financial gain, and attention seeking. In the Washington, D.C. area, serial sniper case John Allen Muhammad, a former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, and Lee Boyd Malvo killed primarily for anger and thrill motivations. They were able to terrorize the greater Washington, D.C. metro area for 3 weeks, shooting 13 victims, killing 10 of them. They communicated with the police by leaving notes, and they attempted to extort money to stop the shootings. They are suspected in a number of other shootings in 7 other states. Dr. Michael Swango, a former U.S. Marine, ambulance worker, and physician, was a health care employee. He was convicted of only 4 murders in New York and Ohio, although he is suspected of having poisoned and killed 35 to 50 people throughout the United States and on the continent of Africa. Swango's motivation for the killings was intrinsic and never fully identified. Interestingly, Swango kept a scrapbook filled with newspaper and magazine clippings about natural disasters in which many people were killed. Paul Reed killed at least 7 people during fast food restaurant robberies in Tennessee. After gaining control of the victims, he either stabbed or shot them. The motivation of the murders was primarily witness elimination. Reed's purpose in committing the robberies was financial gain, and some of the ill-gotten gains were used to purchase a car. Next myth: all serial murderers travel and operate interstate. Most serial killers have a very defined geographic areas of operation. They conduct their killings within comfort zones that are often defined by an anchor. The anchor could be like a place of residence, employment, or even residence of a relative. Serial murderers will, at times, spiral their activities outside of their comfort zone when their confidence has grown through experience or to avoid detection. Very few serial murderers travel interstate to kill. The few serial killers who do travel interstate to kill fall into a few categories: itinerant individuals who move from place to place, homeless individuals who are transients, individuals whose employment lends itself to interstate or transnational travel, such as truck drivers or those in the military service. The difference between these types of offenders and other serial murderers is the nature of their traveling lifestyle, which provides them with many zones of comfort in which to operate. Next myth: serial killers cannot stop killing. It has been widely believed that once serial killers start killing, they cannot stop. There are, however, some serial killers who stop murdering altogether before being caught. In these instances, there are events or circumstances in offenders' lives that inhibit them from pursuing more victims. These can include increased participation in family activities, sexual substitution, and other diversions. BTK killer Dennis Rader murdered 10 victims from 1974 to 1991. He did not kill any other victims prior to being captured in 2005. During interviews conducted by law enforcement, Rader admitted to engaging in autoerotic activities as a substitute for his killings. Jeffrey Gorton killed his first victim in 1986 and his next victim in 1991. He did not kill another victim and was captured in 2002. Gorton engaged in cross-dressing and masturbatory activities, as well as consensual sex with his wife in the interim. Next myth: all serial killers are insane or are evil geniuses. Another myth that exists is that serial killers have either a debilitating mental condition or they are extremely clever and intelligent. As a group, serial killers suffer from a variety of personality disorders, including psychopathy, antisocial personality, and others. Most, however, are not adjudicated as insane under the law. The media has created a number of fictional serial killer geniuses who outsmart law enforcement at every turn. Like other populations, however, serial killers range in intelligence from borderline to above average levels. Myth: serial killers want to get caught. Offenders committing a crime for the first time are inexperienced. They gain experience and confidence with each new offense, eventually succeeding with few mistakes or problems. While most serial killers plan their offenses more thoroughly than other criminals, the learning curve is still very steep. They must select, target, approach, control, and dispose of their victims. The logistics involved in committing a murder and disposing of the body can become very complex, especially when there are multiple sites involved. As serial killers continue to offend without being captured, they can become empowered, feeling that they will never be identified. As the series continues, the killers may begin to take shortcuts when committing the crimes. This often causes the killers to take more chances, leading to identification by law enforcement. It is not that serial killers want to get caught. They feel that they can't get caught. So I will end that here, and the next EDUsode would be part 2, the definition of serial murder. Till next time, have a good evening.